So we're recording this. So anything you say can and will be used against you.
Okay.
So here, and me too. So it's all fair. Here's what I plan to cover today, and as we go, you can ask questions. I'm probably going to cover a pretty good portion of what you think about, but as we go, generally is the best time to ask. So I will first start on the applicant side, and I'm going to talk about some stuff that you probably already are aware of, but just to make sure we're on the same page, I'm going to talk about how this site works with Indeed relative to your iApplicant site. So I'll be doing some compare and contrast as we go through this site, because that is a huge upgrade for you guys, and it's going to be a really good thing for you, the way we have that integration. And then we'll actually submit an application from this site so that you can see what the application process is like for your applicants, number one, and secondly, so you can get a first look at your application. We don't have to go through in excruciating detail a review of your application, because Jill, you have the link to be able to do that offline if you want. And so if you want to send me by email any edits you want made to the application, then we can make those for you. All right, so then we'll log in, and I will confess, because of it's actually a constraint having to do with the job boards, your site got turned on, so you already have some applications. So that's handy. We don't actually have to complete our application, and I'll be able to go in and review an application. Actually, I'll probably go ahead and submit an app just so that we can make notes on it and things like that. But show you how you can review applications, and then I will show you how you can add job listings, including copying job listings from your iApplicant site. And I notice we have 50 on this site. I believe you've got 51, and very conveniently, the very first listing on your iApplicant site is not set up on this site. So if you still need the assistant HR manager for Noble Oil, then we can copy that into this site, and I'll show you how that works.
Yeah, I think we do, so that would be perfect.
All right. Then I will touch on reporting, and then I will actually I'll do a little bit of an overview of the site itself, and then we'll go in and look at how you can edit some of the site settings as needed, and then also how you can set up users. And then if you are ready today to go live with this site, that would actually be my recommendation, because as many job listings as you have, I anticipate they're going to be coming up and down somewhat regularly, and therefore, instead of having to keep two sites trued up, you can go live, and you're going to get all the benefits today of the new site. So we'll describe what that process is about, and about how to bring over applications, past applications from iApplicants. All that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So one other thing I actually didn't mention is let's talk about your site. So smile and wave.
Good.
I presume this is all of you.
It's that most of us are not here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, so
most of the people on our team are remote, and so they're not always in our office. They're remote consultants, and so the people you see on the picture are mostly the people in the office. I think Lauren is there, but otherwise, I don't know if anybody else.
I am. Hello.
Lauren.
It's a good-looking bunch.
This represents CAI. It's a good representation of CAI.
Okay, awesome. So one thing I thought I would mention is that currently it doesn't actually look like you have a link from here to your iApplicant site, unless I'm missing it. Maybe it's buried one level down with these. So there's no need to add your job listings directly on this page. Most of our clients, almost all of our clients, simply say for career opportunities or to view career opportunities, click here, and they have a link that will then land on this page. All right, so that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, this is Lauren. we're a little different. The reason why those are there is those 4 jobs specifically are for employment at CAI. We are set up a little differently, in the group that you're speaking to, the remote workers that Jill referenced, they are recruiting for other companies. So I'm the HR manager here, and so those jobs are posted up to work specifically here at CAI, and this team also recruits for those. However, the majority of our jobs are for other companies, so we don't include all of them right there.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
It would appear that they are for working at CAI. So we should figure out a way to do that, but there is a differentiation. So we've got many jobs that are not for CAI. We're recruiting for them, but they're not to work here at CAI. But these 4 jobs specifically are CAI jobs.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that we discussed this because there is one sensitivity that you're probably aware of, so that you don't become considered by Indeed as being a recruiter, even though you kind of are. You're actually doing it as not a price per hire, I would assume, but actually as for your members. So if they deem you to be a recruiting company, then they're going to insist that you sponsor every one of your listings with Indeed if you want them to show up on Indeed, which is not something you probably want. So
we don't want. We're a nonprofit employers association. So
yeah, exactly. So doing it the way you do it is probably the smartest way. If you, in fact, because you talk about employment at CAI, I think I would leave it just the way you've got it.
Great.
Yep. All right. So never mind on what I said about that. So now let's talk about how iApplicants works and how ApplicantPool is different, and then particularly about Indeed. So your iApplicant site has worked fine for all of these years. It's certainly extremely easy to use as far as being just straightforward, simple, nothing to it. That being said, it can be used by people on mobile devices, and when you first started using iApplicants, that was not even a big deal. Now it is a big deal. Probably better than half of your applicants are, and maybe significantly more than half, are applying via mobile devices. So when they come to this site, then they have their phone in the typical portrait mode. They see the job titles. If they want to see where it's located, they have to swipe over. In rare circumstances, someone may even turn their phone landscape, but it's not often they do that. So they have to swipe over. Same thing when they're looking at the job listings, when they click in, and when they're on the application. So it is usable from a mobile device, but it's not mobile optimized. So that's big step number one, is this site is mobile optimized. When you look at this, if you go to capital.applicantpool.com on a mobile device, you'll see this is fit to your screen. The information on the right-hand side is down below. And when you go to a listing, same thing. This is fit to your screen, and down below is where you can start putting in contact information to complete an application. All right. So mobile optimization is big, but that's not the biggest part. The biggest part is actually that when people come to your listing, what they see, actually, when they come to your listings when they're out on Indeed, what they see are, and they just changed the title. Instead of being sponsored, it's now promoted. That's interesting. Wow. And they sometimes add more than 3 now up here. So the first few listings, up to 3 or 4, maybe 5, are now promoted, sponsored listings. So they're pay-per-click. And I presume you're probably at least mostly familiar with that. And then you get down to the rest of the listings. You'll note that Indeed does change things periodically, fairly periodically. And your listings from iApplicants are like the federal court listing. When you click on this, you land on the iApplicant site, you see the full application, and you complete it if you're so inclined. That's a big drawback for applicants. They much prefer the easily apply process because it's available now. So if they were indifferent between these 2 organizations and these 2 job listings, they're going to go with this one, particularly when they're on a cell phone. And when they click on this, as you probably know, they see the job listing fully formatted just the way you have it on your site. They see it on the Indeed site, and when they click on Apply Now on your site, they will complete the EEO questions, and they will complete any job-specific questions you have, and then they can submit their information, and it's pulled into the system. So they don't even, most of the time, land on your applicant pool site initially. They're able to simply submit their information. So this, depending upon how you handle the next step, gives you better than double the number of applicants. Now, the way that we've got your site set up currently, because I understand and with the wide variety of clients you have in particular, there are a lot of them that, and you guys probably wouldn't be completely content if the applications that came in were not complete. In other words, your required fields were not completed. So things such as when they come from Indeed, and this applies now equally to ZipRecruiter and Glassdoor, and actually fairly similarly to LinkedIn. When they come from these sites, they don't ask for city and state of prior employers. They don't ask for city and state of schools. They don't ask, we can turn on additional questions, but you don't want to be onerous about that. So we can have those asked up front. But there's some notable information, including even the street address of the applicant themselves. And I'm told by some other recruiters, I haven't confirmed it, but that Indeed will guess what their city and state is. They don't necessarily put it in themselves. So what we do then is when they come in from these sites, and Indeed is going to be the majority of your applicants. ZipRecruiter, try as they may, they still are generally about 1/10 of what Indeed is, and Glassdoor is a fraction again. So when they come into your site, we're going to have them show up as an incomplete application. And I'll show you this in a little while. After a couple of hours, an email will be sent from the system to all of these applicants coming in from Indeed and these other sites, asking them if they would like to return and complete some additional information. That is when they'll be required to give the city and state of employers and of schools and other fields of information that they need. And so not everyone's going to do that, but more people will do that than will complete a non-easily apply application up front. So you're still going to end up with, it's likely to be double the number of applicants or more than what you're getting currently. Qualified applicants for, and non-qualified of course, for a given job listing. All right, so that's the deal on Indeed and how it's different with CAI applicants. So let's go in here. Another difference is, well, there's a number of them, but another one is going to be that when they start the application, they put in their contact information. At that point, they are actually captured. That piece of information is captured, and so they are an incomplete app until they submit it. And so they are able to do the individual sections, and if they need to bail out, they can, and they can return. When they put in their contact information and go to the next page, they have an option if they wish to apply using their resume. So the system will parse in information from their resume, new addition relative to CAI applicants. So they don't have to actually, if they're coming directly to this site instead of from Indeed and the other places where they're already getting their information, then they're able to apply with their resume. So I'm going to log in as if I've been here before. It's actually Bubba Sample, or actually Bubba, or other Bubba Sample, I think it is. Bubba Sample had applied too many times, so we had to go to his brother. Now, so you'll note if they come back and they've not previously set up a password, then they can do that so that they can log back in. And other people who happen to know their email address, they won't be able to log in for them. All right. Thank you, Europe. We now have, because of GDPR, a need to indicate agreement with communications policy and give them an option to opt out of text messaging. So they land on this page. So interesting. I've done a little bit, but not a lot. So we'll go through here relatively quickly, not super fast. So I'm going to go screen to screen. This job does have some job questions set up, and I will, when we get over and log in, I'm going to show you how you can make those more useful. All right, so this is likely a yes/no question. It is, and I would recommend setting these up as option buttons so that instead of having 2 clicks to answer it, you can do it with a single click as an applicant or a single tap if you're on your cell phone. You can also set one of these responses as a disqualifier. So if you want a no answer on this, or if you, and maybe even change this question to be how many years of experience do you have, and anyone that answers less than 1 year of experience, make that a disqualifier. You can do that, and the system will automatically disposition the applicant for you using your does not meet minimum requirements status that you've got set up, and you don't have to do anything else with that application. It's marked as not meeting qualifications, so by default you're only looking at qualified applicants, and can save you some time, particularly for jobs where you get a lot of applications. All right, so I'll go ahead and answer these. So I don't really, or this Bubba rather, and not so much. Oh, so he's not your ideal candidate. He might have been screened out had we turned on disqualifiers. Employment history, I've already sufficiently answered it, but I'll show you what you would need if you have an additional one. So it's just, we picked up the fields from your current application, including city and state for employers, because that can be useful. So we have these fields. They can tell you, and if they check the box that it's current employer, they don't have to do date ended. Those 2 fields go away. So that's what we have. So I'm going to, we're not requiring any prior employers, nor are we requiring education, so they can skip these fields if they wish. Almost all of the applicants coming into your site are going to have them because they already have profiles set up in ZipRecruiter, or actually Indeed primarily, but the other sites, and so they're excuse me, allergies, their information will come in. We don't have the benefit of you guys with snow covering everything that might emit an allergen, and so here I am. Okay. Resume. They can upload 1 or more documents, and even if they're using an iPhone where you can't store a document on the phone, they can access Dropbox and Google Drive, or they can put in text and turn that into a file. So if that's everything that you need or want to be able to, for some jobs require resumes, we could even set up a required resume application if you want, a copy of the current one but requiring resume, and allow that. He says, thank you. Man, I just made myself some more work. Okay, moving on. These are not required, but these are the fields of information that you include. You've got the option in this system, if you get a bunch of applicants and for a job, and then your top few you want to ask them to return to the application and give you references, you can do that. So you can ask them to go back and specifically say, and hey, please give us reference information. If you need to add any additional information, such as how they know the applicant, we've got some kind of standard fields for that. So that's you can do that as a second step. I do not recommend requiring references up front because you lose a lot of applicants when you do that, similar to how if you require a bunch of other fields. All right, additional. So these are the ones you have on here currently, and I didn't look to see if any are required. Doesn't look like any are required, so I'm going to skip past these. If you do wish to make any required going forward, you can do that too. All right, we've got your voluntary disclosure. Oh, pardon?
Richard, I'm sorry. If we want to change the application and make any of these things required, is that something we can do, or you have to do that for us?
You need to ask us to do that, so you can just shoot me an email and
okay.
let me know what you need done.
Okay. you're showing us everything. What you have here is everything that we have already had in iApplicant. So it's pretty much it's asking for all the same information. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. On source, by the way, if they put other, they have to answer with what the other site is. And if they put employee referral, they don't have to tell you who it is, but about 9 times out of 10 they will.
Okay.
Then we do have an applicant statement. And since I got all green check marks, I don't have any red messages coming up. I'm just not able to submit. And when I submit successfully, this is the message that they see on screen. They see the same message in an email. You can edit the email template if you ever need this edited. Just let me know. And similar to the other changes, we can do that. The applicant now can click on my account, and they can go in and view the job listing again if they want. They can print out and view the application that they've just completed. If it was not completed, instead of saying complete, it would say continue. So they could return and complete more information. They can't update any of the application except for the contact information, but they can do that at any point themselves without having to ask you or get any special permission. All right, so that's kind of handy. So that, oh, and if they do come back to apply to a second job, the email address is the unique identifier. So when they log back in with that email address, they can complete a second application and only have to do fields that are unique for a new job. So the disclosure, for instance, job questions, things like that. But the bulk of it, education, employers, things like that, resume, they can use from the prior application. So all nice additions. Okay, so I'm going to log in with the same kind of access you'll have as an administrator. Okay, so this is going to be set up so that as an administrator, you can have access to all of the job listings, all of the applications. If at some point it makes more sense for any of your users/recruiters to have access to only a subset, you can do that. We can make them, instead of an administrator, we can make them even a posting manager, and they would be able to see the departments/business units, companies, only those that are assigned to them. But they could.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary. I think pretty much, I think we'll be fine to just have everybody have access. We've always had that, and that works fine for the team.
Okay.
Because we
Fair
share
enough.
things sometimes and all that. So
yeah.
that's
Okay.
fine.
And really nice thing about this system is that not only are you going to each have your own unique login, but the system will track who's viewed what applications. You can use, in fact, let me just give you the quick overview here, but you can actually spotlight applications for each other. So you can send each other a note saying, hey, take a look at this application. So we do have a dashboard that, in fact, you've got some analytics already because you've gotten some applicants. So these are your metrics so far. So we've got the 50 jobs. You've already got some applications. So it shows you some general analytics. We've got a lot more analytics underneath reports. And relative to iApplicants, this is a huge upgrade because these are real-time analytics. If someone just applied, this number just went from 22 to 23. You'll be able to, and we're going to go in just a sec and view applicants. You can, by the way, set up your site so that you have a default landing page. So if you work mostly viewing applications and you like looking at all of them, then you can land here, although you can then filter, as I'll show you. Or if you just want to go in one job at a time, so you want to land on applicants by job, you can do that. Or if all you're primarily doing is setting up job listings, you can land here. All right, and that, by the way, underneath this gear icon on the upper right is where you can go into My Account. You can update your password. You can set your default landing page, things like that. All right. So we'll go in and we're going to talk about jobs. In this system, you have true templates. So for job questions, if you got a set of questions that you want to use for multiple job listings, you can set up a set of job questions that can be used across any number of job templates or listings. The job templates themselves are true templates, so you don't need to have duplicate titles on either of these. A single job template can be used to set up as many job listings as you want going forward, and you're going to know that it's that template. It's a starting point, hopefully a clean starting point. Again, we'll touch on the reports. So you got a lot of standard reports, including some that have some good analytics for you. You can build your own reports. You've got some additional dashboards, and you can even see where people are bailing out of the system. So if you're wanting to dig in at some point and see, do we need to make any tweaks to our application or even turn off some sections because we're just losing too many people, something like that, you can see where they're bailing out. And this gives you trends on where your traffic is or how it's coming in. We've got in this system the ability to do two-way conversations with your applicants. So when you send an email template, you can allow with that template responses from your applicants. And when they reply, then you're going to have messages in your inbox. So you can go up and you can see who's applied for what job listings, and you can click to pop into their application and reply to them again. Further, we have the ability to send text messages from this system. Now there's, when we get to that, I'll show it to you, but I'll just go ahead and mention now, there is a cost associated with sending text messages. It used to be broken out on your cell phone bills for that very reason. And then because of competitive reasons, they bury it now into a total number. So we cover, it's not a tremendous amount for as much activity as you have going on, up to 50 text messages at no cost. You've had none, so that's a step up. And then if you find that it's really useful to get a hold of candidates that are otherwise not looking at their email maybe, then you can purchase some additional ones, which it's relatively small cost and it kind of keeps us whole. You can add applications. You can bulk upload applicants. So if you get a number of resumes and you want to parse them into the system with each creating a new application, you can do that. And of course, add new jobs. In this system, when you search, it's searching across both the application and the attached resume. Also a difference because you didn't search across the resumes unless they were text resumes in iApplicants. So this gives you much more functionality, and including in keywords, so you can put in some limited Boolean search characters. And once you're in there and doing a search, in fact, that's one of the first reports underneath reports in the standard reports, you can start doing things like search by city, search miles from zip code, things like that. For your login, you can create bookmarks. So if you've got a particular report that you like to go to and you want to just be able to click and you're there, then you can bookmark a page and then just go down. You can look at your most recently viewed applications. Here's the spotlight I was talking about. So when you have spotlights, you'll have a little indicator up here saying that someone spotlighted something for you. So you don't have to go look at the emails. You can just go here, click on it, and you'll land in the application. If you want to calendar events, so if you want all of your interviews that you set up to be just in this one calendar, you can do so and have it push onto Outlook or whatever calendar you use. You've got, you still have the online chat available to you. You've also got this FAQ, which is a very robust FAQ. I highly recommend it. It's going to be the fastest way to get quick answers. And depending upon which page you're on, you're going to have a different set of recommended responses. So on jobs, yet another, reports, yet another set down here. When you start typing in, it'll start popping up the closest responses so that you can deal with those. Or pick the one rather that's best fit. So I would make careful note of that. It's going to be really helpful. And as you already saw, we'll go in at the end here and talk about site setups as well as user logins. So applicants, we've got some now, and this is excellent because now I can show you a couple of things. So other Bubba that I just submitted applied for a similar job as at least one other applicant. So let's go with that one. So I'm going to choose SBBA. Oh, actually it's the job listing, sorry, BSA analyst. So I'm going to choose this job. And the reason I'm doing this is because if you want to spotlight applications, and you can choose a selection of jobs and even a selection of statuses if you wish. I'm just going to go with one job, one status. And the reason I'm doing one job is so that I can show you how spotlighting works. Because different users could potentially have different levels of access. Some may be able to see this job listing, some not. If you want to be able to spotlight, you have to narrow down your choice of job listings so that the system knows who you can spotlight for. Okay, so.
And Richard, can I just interrupt? Just explain, spotlight means that you're able to forward the application to somebody so they can see it. That's what spotlighting means, right?
It's a specific way of forwarding an application that is the most useful way of sharing an application, yes.
But we can also spotlight outside the system, correct?
Actually, so you can only spotlight the people who have a login set up in the system. You do have a way to send applications to someone outside of the system. Well, who's not set up.
Doing. Most likely we'd be doing that, the outside, because we're working with outside clients. So we might send each other sometimes, but more likely outside.
All right, so let's say that you've got at East Coast Migrant Head Start, you've got a person there who you want to be able to forward applications to. Then
yes, exactly right.
And let's say further that you want them to be able to open it up on a mobile device, and you want them to be able to make a note, possibly on the application, or even change in a limited manner to be able to update a status so they can give you feedback. So you may have some statuses you make available to what's called the non-posting manager. So this is the manager at your client. And if you want them to be able to select the first 5 statuses to tell you what they want to do next with the applicant, most efficient way to reply, then we can set them up as a non-posting manager. You can then, so let's say that it's actually Other Bubbas is the application that you want to spotlight for them. Let me show you that. So by default, we're only looking at non-archived applications, but you can choose to look at others. We're only looking at those that are qualified, but we can choose to look at those that the system disqualified. And of course, you can change your date range, and you can even see what emails have been sent out if you want. Click on this, and it'll show you with each app. But I'm going to narrow down. So I got these 2 apps. So let's say I want to spotlight this one for somebody. And Jill, I can actually spotlight it for you if you wish. So you can see exactly what it looks like. You're going to want to log in at least once first. So this is true of any manager who you want to be able to spotlight for. If you want them to be able to open this in email and actually view the application in email, similar to how they did in our applicants, remember this system is tracking who opens applications. The only way to do that is if they log in at least once first. So if I choose Jill, you okay with this, Jill?
Yep.
So I could actually send it to multiple people, but it has to be someone who has a login in the system. And
so can I ask a question really quickly?
Sure.
This is Cheryl. So does this mean that we would have to have the hiring managers at companies that we're recruiting for, they would need to log in to this system?
They would have to log in for Spotlight and to be able to view applications from their email without having to log in every single time. They have to log in at least once.
Okay.
If we don't put them in the system, is there a way to send them the information?
There is.
Outside the system. That's what we would most likely.
Yeah, so let me just show you. So if I'm, actually, let me show you another couple of things, and then I'll show you that. I just want to show you a couple of things on this page, and then we're going to go into the application. So here's the other thing you can do from this page, much more efficient than in iApplicants, because you can do what takes you probably 4 screens to do in iApplicants. and of course do spotlighting, and you can do the disqualification and all that you can't do at all in iApplicants. But from here, you can update statuses right here on this screen. You can update multiple applications at once. So if I selected both of these applications, I could update the status of both. I could email both of these applications. So if I have a large group of applicants for a job, I want to select them all and then take out the one person that I'm hiring and send my thanks but no thanks email to everyone else, then I can do that straight from the screen. I don't have to go to the email applicant screen. I don't have to go to the Mass Archive and Status Update tool. I got that right in here. And if I want to print multiple applications, I can select them and I can print them straight from here, put the break between each one. This is something we talked about, or I mentioned earlier. So if this is an applicant who I want to go back and give me references, I can, or actually if I want them to complete some other fields, then I can ask them to do that from here. All right, so let's go take a look at this app. So here he is. Had he applied for other jobs, I would be able to see those other job listings that he applied to with any notes, indicators. I would be able to see what status had been given to these other applications. So if he's interviewing for some other job, I'm going to know it right up here. And this is what I was talking about. So I can see what activities have already taken place, who's viewed it. This is me. And that the system generated the email, so I can view the email. And then I'll show you up here in messaging. Now, to answer your direct question, so clearly any of you can look at this application, not an issue. If you wanted to set up the manager so that they don't see, you can actually set them up as an assigned user, so they don't see all applications, they just see those that you assign to them. You can still spotlight the application to them, and that assigns the app. But it allows them to open it up from their email. And should they log in as an assigned user, all they see is applicants. They don't see jobs, reports, any of this other stuff. Well, actually, I see a couple over here. But they just see applicants, no dashboards, no reports, no nothing. Only the applications that you assigned to them. And the nice thing about setting them up as an assigned user is that you can do the spotlighting so that when they log in, they see how many apps you've just spotlighted for them. And there's no time limitation, and they can give you that feedback, as I mentioned. If you want to allow them to do updating of statuses, you can restrict to which status you want them to be able to select, and you don't have to allow them to do notes. If, however, you don't want to do any of that, you want them locked down tight. So you want them to basically be a viewing manager for a limited amount of time of a specific application that you share with them, then you can go to share application via email. It's a little bit more of a hassle for them because when you select them, and actually I don't have anyone set up, I could add them as a contact, so all I have to have is their name and their email address. So I can put in the name and the email address, and it'll pop their name in here, and I can send it to them. And I can add a note, and I can choose which pieces of the application to include or not. All that being said, when they get it, they are they have viewing rights only. They can't update statuses, they can't put notes, and they have to copy the password from the email and click on the link, and then they have to log in to view that application, and that login only lasts for 7 days. Thus, I mean, even if you want to make it to where they can't update any statuses and they can't put any notes, I still highly recommend doing Assign Manager, because that way.
Richard, I think just knowing the way we work, because we work for so many outside companies and clients, but I don't know that we're ever going to want to have any of those people in our system. I mean, we're just not used to that, and I don't, I can talk to the team about that, but I think mostly for us, what we would be sending to our managers are resumes and cover letters, just kind of the basics.
Yeah, well, and so it'll be similar to what you're doing now. You're going to have to download the resumes and put it in an email and send it to them if you want to.
Oh, really? Homer. I thought that was better from our conversation. I thought there was a way to forward a resume or forward or something.
Well, you can forward that. Do you not want them to see the full application?
Well, I just don't know if I want them in the system, is what we're saying. Like,
let's
we want to
really,
make it not complicated for them.
Yeah, let's be really precise about what it means. Yeah. But again, let's be very precise about what it means for them to be in the system. It is a highly limited access. They don't see everything that you see. They just see the applications that you have assigned to them. And most of them, beyond logging in that very first time that you insist that they log in, after that, they're probably just going to be opening applications from their email.
So this is Cheryl again. I just wanted to throw this in. From my perspective, the people that I'm working with, they want me to screen everything so that they don't have to do all that.
Exactly.
And
that's what you do with the Sign Manager.
Right. So a lot of times, I'll look at things if they need sponsorship, for example, or if they just don't meet the minimum qualifications, then I just don't send it. So they don't have to bother with anything other than whatever is sent to them is somebody that may be a possibility for whatever job that I have. And it just seems like it would be giving them something else to do, aside from the fact of being in the system that, our system. I just think that it would be more cumbersome for the people that I'm working with currently.
Yeah, and so we're certainly not going to force you to do things one way or another. You can choose what works best for you. If nothing else, I would recommend, even if you just do it with a personal email address, one of you set yourself up as an assigned user, assign yourself some applications, log in just one time, but then test out looking at it from the application. And compare that to what it's like if you simply forward an application to yourself as a contact, or what it's like downloading a resume and forwarding yourself a resume. So compared to those two options, I think it's going to be a lot easier. And we've got now, granted, they're not all set up quite the way you are, but even clients who are sharing applications with others outside of their organization almost always go with either Assign User or Non-Posting Manager, depending upon whether they want them to see all apps or just filtered apps. Now, filtered apps, they go with Assign User. Most of the other times, they go with Non-Posting Manager. Let me show you real quick.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about with the team. This is not really the way we work. So I think my understanding, I thought it was just going to be there was a way to, there was a button we could press that said forward resume or forward application without us having to download it, save it on our computers, and then send it. The way we present to our people, it's different than if we all work in a company and we're just sending it to our hiring managers within our company. It's a different dynamic.
Yep, I hear you. And that's been requested, and I don't candidly know why it is that the developers haven't yet added the ability to simply forward a resume. And it may have to do with data security, but I don't know. Because when you have someone, if you forward them a resume, then you're not controlling the information the same way you are when they just are able to view an application. They can take and do whatever they want with the resume. So this system does have, and it actually has been another huge sea change since you first started working with iApplicants, is data security. So applicants don't want their stuff flying around. You don't want to be accused of loosely dealing with, and not that you would, but nonetheless, you don't want to even have the possibility that become an issue. So this system makes it trackable and handles it a lot more carefully.
I understand all that. We're just going to really have to think this through.
Fair enough.
We're probably going to have to just continue that the way we've been working, unless there's some kind of improvement. I don't,
Okay.
you know, I mean, and we can talk about this, and
Yep.
maybe some regular clients may decide to do that kind of thing if there's just a lot of activity. But sometimes we're working for a client and we're just doing one position for them, and then we
Yep.
move on, and they're not, you know, so it just, we like to make it simpler than having to send them something where they have to log in and have a password and get into our system. It's not typically the way we work. So anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of point counterpoint, but if I will add this, that for some, it's going to give them a lot greater sense of comfort that the data is being handled securely when you do tell them, we need you to log in because our system is going to be able to track who looks at applications. So it does give that level of comfort. So that being said, so you can review, of course, everything in the app. You can download or preview resumes, as we mentioned. And any questions that are set as disqualifiers where the applicant actually gets disqualified, so had this been a disqualifying question and I answered no, there would be a little red flag here, and you would know then this is the question that disqualified this applicant, question or questions. All right, I didn't have the additional questions turned on yet, but if someone's coming in from the job boards, as we mentioned, they'll be asked to return so that they will answer your additional questions, or at least have the opportunity to. Now, in addition to being able to share the application by email and the spotlight, as we mentioned, you can copy the application. So if Bubba applied for this job, but you think he might actually be a better fit for a different job, then you can copy it. And while I've got this open, let me just show, you can attach documents if you want to this. And if you want to force the applicant to go back, so it'll take them out of your applicant log. So if you got clients who have affirmative action plans, this actually puts them back to incomplete and asks them to give you additional information such as those things we've talked about before they resubmit their application. So to copy, when I click on this, I can choose another job listing that I would like them to be. Controller's probably not a good option on that one. But let's say I noticed that this person had banking teller experience, then if I want to consider them for that, then I can click on copy and it will add them to that job listing rather. So this app would pop up here as the other application, and down here you'd be able to see that I manually added them to that other job, the bank teller job. Oh, and let me show you notes. So when you add notes, it makes it really clear. And in fact, I can go ahead and update the status. So if I want to explain why it is that I'm saying this person doesn't meet our requirements, I can do that. So I can add my note and refresh my screen. So when you're viewing your applications, then you don't have to open up the app to be able to see any notes. You can just hover over it. And this is only applicable for people who can view this job app. Okay, so clearly anyone that was logging in as an assigned applicant or assigned user rather, if these apps aren't assigned to them, they're not going to see them. They're not going to see the jobs. They're just going to see those apps that they've been assigned. All right, so same thing over here. I can hover over the notes, and if this was for one of these other jobs, then I would, same thing. If I can see the jobs, I can see the apps. Okay. Oh, so let's say that, one other thing here. So let's say that you did forward an application to one of your clients, and you're curious, actually you're highly curious about whether they ever even open it up, and you don't want to have to check back. You can follow this application. All right. So by following it, the system is going to send you a message when they view that application or do anything else with it. And once your curiosity is satisfied, you can unfollow it. So the messaging, I mentioned that you can now do two-way. So here's the email that was sent out. I don't have any responses to it yet, but if I were to send a email template then I can choose from those and I can send out the message. Now the text credits, you have, as I mentioned, 50 of them. They're actually credits, so it's kind of like a tweet. Now, it's not a lot of characters. So if it's a super short message, it uses just 1 credit, but then you're going to be able to send it as a text message as long as the applicant hasn't opted out of text messaging or indicated that, or even if they don't have a telephone number that's indicated as being a cell phone number. If you do find out that someone has a telephone number that they didn't note it was a cell phone, but they tell you, oh, it is a cell phone, I really prefer text messaging, you can always go in and edit their, underneath edit here, you can edit just their contact information is all you can access, but you can edit and change this from home or office or nothing to being a cell number so that you can send them those messages. I should have mentioned one other thing while I was here. So down at the bottom, it shows you how many messages are left, and should you wish to sign up for a plan so that you get an additional 500 texts a month, you can do that at $29 a month. So that's kind of what I was mentioning earlier. And when you go into your inbox, you're going to see basically that same thing, but you're going to have for all the most recent candidates or applicants, all the most recent messages from them, and then be able to respond, go into the application and respond, or just view them. Okay, so that's applicants. Let's go in and look at our job listings. Yes, you can add a job from here, not my recommended path. Reason for that is the templates that I talked about earlier. So the fact that you've got job questions, job templates that you can set up. If you're starting something from scratch, you're not copying from my applicants, you just have a brand new job title, then the way I would recommend is to come in first, create your job questions. Now, we got a couple of them here that are likely non-unique questions, so we should really change the title of this one to indicate that it's different than this one here. But when you're setting up your job questions, you can go to new job listing, or you can just edit one of these if you wish. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on job listings. So this first tab, job questions. So I can come in, I can add a new set of job questions, or I can edit one, or just view them. So I'm going to come in and take a look. Neither of these are disqualifiers. Let's say that I did want an answer of no to be a disqualifier on this. So I can click on Action, Edit. This is just saying, hey, if you've already got applicants, you don't want to change the intent, so be careful. So I say, fine, I'm not going to change the intent of the question. Here's what it looks like right now to do a yes, no. I cannot edit this, so if you want to change this, you actually need to archive this question and add a new question. You'll still be able to see the responses of your earlier applicants to this question, but it just means that if you want a different way of doing it, you can change that. Here's where I can disqualify or set this as a disqualifier. Let's say, though, that I don't want this to be a disqualifier. I just want to know who has better qualifications than other applicants. I can put in a score. For that matter, I've got clients who, for some jobs, they put a set of competency questions in here. So they have 10 questions, each of them a score of 10. So if they don't get at least a score of 70, then they don't consider them for the job. But this is kind of a nice to have, possibly. It's not a disqualifier, so I could put in a score of 10 so that I know that this applicant has that additional qualification that makes them stand out from the rest of the bunch. If I wanted to add to this group of questions, I can do so. Here's where you can then choose if you want to be option button, and you can put in your questions. So you can, it's just easier. You can see the preview. All right. So that's my job question. So I'm adding a brand new title I've never had before. I'm going to add my questions so that when I come to add a job template and I click on new job template, that when I'm ready to select which job questions I want to use, they're already here. So I don't have to loop back around after creating the template and then creating job questions. Then I have to come back and say, yep, and I want this template to use these questions. Or same thing when I'm doing the job listing. If I want to already have the job questions, then I want to have them ready to go. So let's talk about job listings then. So a job listing, you can have as many job listings as you want using any job template. And since particularly right now, you may have some job titles from my applicants that you want to go back to. You don't find them among your templates, but you want to use something from my applicants. And we didn't want to clutter up your site with a lot of listings that you wouldn't necessarily want. So on job listings, you can click on, hold on just one second. Interesting note. My daughter just went to study abroad yesterday, so she's in London now, and I'm just making sure that just got a text message.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So she's trying to set up phones, making sure. All right, we're good to go. New job listing. Typically, if you're going, as I mentioned, if you're going to create a new job listing, I recommend doing job questions, set up your job template, and then, in fact, let me just show you that. So I've set up my job questions. I'm on my job template. I'll just edit this one instead of adding a brand new one. So I'm rocking through here. I add, this is what shows up on ApplicantPool. So I add my title. I add my description. Same thing. That's for the career site, ApplicantPool site. And then if I want the same stuff to be out on Indeed, then I can just copy. There are some cases where it makes sense to have a different title internally than what you have externally. You want the one outside to be what's commonly recognized maybe by applicants or potential applicants, so you might tweak it a little bit for the outside so you can make it different. And then same thing, if you have a perfectly good description above and you want to copy it to the career sites, then you can do so. If it is a super long job description that you get from your client and you know that you've got a career site that you want to push it out to that has a limitation on a number of characters, then you may need to tweak it here. So you can copy it and then edit it down here to where it's different than what you have internally. Required fields include EEO category, whether or not they need it, exempt, non-exempt, and job location. If you're in here and the job location you're looking for does not exist in your drop-down, you need to add a new one. Just click on Add New. This works now with Google Jobs. So the new title we'll come back to, but let's say that it's someplace where you have actually multiple locations in a large city. So you don't want to just put New York again, or you don't, well, actually not New York. You don't want to put Raleigh again because you got, it's a pretty large town, and you got, you know, the north side, the east side. You want someone to have a specific address. You can get all the way down to the specific address, street address if you want, for your new listing. If you're fine with it being just the city, then that's fine. So if I was adding a new one, then just make sure that you get the one that's actually able to be looked up in Google, and therefore it's going to show up in Indeed as well. So once you have it in here, then you can copy and make the title whatever you want. So if you've got two different locations in Raleigh and both of them are street addresses, and you're not necessarily going to recognize what the street address is, you can put as a title Raleigh-X employer, Raleigh-Y employer. You can make the title whatever you want. But I would make it so that it falls into the scheme of the city name first, so that when you're looking for the city, you can find it alphabetically, just as a recommendation. You can do whatever you want, though. All right, and you have to assign at least one of your business units. You can do more than one if you wish, so you can do that if you want. And then once you're adding the job listing, you can choose any of these you wish. This is really has to do with, again, access. So if you've got any managers who are only able to view a single business unit, then this would limit them to being able to see only templates that are associated with that one business unit. Otherwise, it just makes it handy because this one's going to be right up top. All right. So
Richard, again, just because all these people are our clients, so that what you're going to see here, there are no departments. It's all clients, it's companies, it's it's not internal things. We do recruiting for CAI, so CAI will show up in some of these listings. But most of these are, these are outside companies. So
Agreed.
How do we, is that something we could change just so this is clearer to our team, or?
It's
a client department.
They're synonyms. It's really just different names for a business unit, if you will. I kind of wish they would have made this business unit instead of department. In fact, you know what? I'm going to suggest that.
Because this is really, like assuming this is all for one company versus the way we do recruiting.
Yep, I hear you. I will put it in as a suggestion. It's really just a training point, though, ultimately. It's a business unit, so they're just going to find the one that they need there and then go with it.
That's fine. Just if we're customizing the site for us, then this is really...
And some things we can customize. We can't customize this. What shows up externally, you could, if you wanted this to show up externally, you didn't have it showing up externally, and I wouldn't actually recommend having it show up externally, but if you did want it to show up externally, it would read whatever title you chose. Now, if I was adding a job listing from here, I just created this template, then I would click on, actually it would be create a new listing is what it would be originally. It knows that we already have one, so it would be update. I'm just going to cancel out because I don't want to create a new job listing. On the next page, if I had clicked past this, is where you would be able to see the additional items. And by the way, when you're editing these, notice that this is the job ID from my applicants. This is how your applications, if we migrate them in from iApplicants, how they're going to be married to this job title in this system. All right, so we picked up your internal ID, and oh, that's interesting. So those applications that came in, they didn't come from this way. So they set this up actually as future general interest because they didn't want to turn your site live. Do you know at this point if you're going to go live with this today?
Well, I guess it all depends on being ready for it and making sure that everything, because we're working. Everybody's in the middle of working on positions.
True.
So,
so if you wanted to wait until you've got all your logins set up, which is really the biggest thing and the primary, almost only thing that you really need to do is just set up your logins. Beyond that, if you want to tweak your job questions, you could do so and making some disqualifiers. But otherwise, it's really just a matter of setting up your logins. So if it's just primarily the group on the phone here, and if you wanted to just email those to me, I could get them set up, PDQ.
Well, so what happens to the app? Oh, go ahead. Does somebody have a question?
Yeah, this is Carolyn. If people are not on the phone that would need to use this on a daily basis, I'd be concerned about turning it on today because they're not going to know how to use it.
Yeah, fair point.
Right. Well, that was my question was, is iApplicant still running? So the people who are not here yet but are working in iApplicant's not being turned off. So whatever.
It's still live.
It's still live, and so anything anybody's working in iApplicant, nothing's going to happen. You can continue to work in there until you're ready to work in here.
That's correct. And in fact,
this information can be transferred over from iApplicant to this if we're working in iApplicant?
Yes, but that can be a week or two before we're able to migrate over your applications. So what I would recommend is make sure everyone's up to speed to use this system, and then we'll flip the switch so that it's actually two switches. One is so that all of these jobs, instead of being basically turned off as they are right now, we would make them current openings. So this tells Indeed that we want them to go live on their site from here instead of from iApplicants. And then the other thing we do is we program a redirect so that anyone who attempts to go to this page, they land instead on this page.
Okay. So what I would recommend, Richard, is that we don't turn anything on until all of our applicants are migrated over. I mean, it looks like our jobs are migrated over, at least as of the effective date. You know, people might have added jobs since you did this, but you know, I would want us to have sort of a go live where we know that everything is there, so that people have already, you know, there are 4 people at least on the team that were not able to be on this call that will need to listen to this. You know, what would be nice is if everybody could get a login so that they could play around and you know, even while the system's not live yet, because I think what's going to help us learn how to use this is to kind of play around on it.
Oh yeah.
So
yep, agreed.
Can we make it available to everybody to play on, but not be live until we say, okay, now everything's there from my applicant, we can now go live?
Yeah, so how we typically do this is, I mean, because the site is actually live as far as you're being able to use it, we just need to have the login set up for the other users.
Right. Right.
And once we flip the switch to have them come over from, or to have them come into the site from Indeed and the other job boards, then at that point, we'll put in the request for the redirect. And that iApplicant site, all of you users can continue to log into there, but it's not until you stop getting applications on the iApplicant site that we're going to want to put in the request to migrate over the applications. So you don't want to wait for your applications from iApplicants to show up here. You may have a week or two where you still need to work with some applicants on the old site, even though you're still working with the new applicants on this current site. And then we'll get them moved in as quick as we can, but we can't do all that simultaneously, just because of the way the apps are coming in, and you got to cut them off before you can move them over.
Right, right. So whatever makes most sense. I mean, we can work in the 2 systems for a little while until we have, you know, especially if people are in the middle of something and are already working with candidates who are in iApplicant. So that's really fine. I think what's most important is that everybody gets access to start looking at it, even if, you know, and if people want to post a new position on ApplicantPool, if they're just starting with a fresh, brand new position, you know, starting today or tomorrow, after they get the logins, could they then just start using it and it's going to work, or it's not going to work?
Yeah, it's going to work.
But is it feeding up to Indeed yet?
Oh, it only starts once you've got everybody has their login, and you're ready to. We can actually turn it on job by job. Although that's just the coordination of that, I wouldn't want to have to go there. But I would say when everyone has their login and you're comfortable enough that they ought to be able to log in here, and so maybe that's just a prod to go ahead and get them to do it, then let me know and we'll flip the switch at that point.
Okay. But then they can still work in iApplicant. And how long will we have iApplicant available to us just to continue to work in as needed?
We don't have any current plans to shut down the site, so you should be able to work in there for a while, a matter of years.
Just until we're sure everybody is, moved over and we have everything we need. So I think that would be the plan. If you can, you know, I would send you the names of everyone on the team that would need access. So you could send me their logins, or maybe you send it out to them individually.
Yeah, and if you prefer, I mean, either one of us can do it. If you prefer to set them up, you can do that, but I'm happy to as well. So let me show you, because I kind of got us sidetracked on that issue. If you're good to hop back in here. So we've got one more listing we need to add, so I can show you a couple of things when we do that. All right, keep in mind, what I'm doing now is because I'm copying it from my applicants, so that's why I'm starting on this job listings page. If it was a brand new listing, start here, first tab, then go to the second tab, and then your once you put in your template and you create your listing, that's when you select that you want it to be a current listing, and you'll select your job city and move forward from there. We're, however, on the job listings page because I want to copy from iApplicants. So when I go to template, I don't have that template here for that first listing, so I'm going to create a new template. So I'm creating a new template and a new job listing at the same time. And I'm going to go out to, what was my title out there? It was my Assistant Human Resources Manager. So got a lot of listings out there. All right, the biggest number is going to be the most current one, the most recent one. So it's got to be this one. So it's going to copy in all the information, including that job ID, very handy. And we're not ready for this to go live, so I'm going to choose future. This will make it so it doesn't show up on Indeed. I've got my title. I've got my, this, by the way, is easier than iApplicants as well, because you don't have multiple fields like they used to need. You now just have everything in the job description field. And you don't have to select your own keywords. They have a really smart algorithm on figuring out what keywords are going to work best for you based upon searches that potential applicants have done before. Or more specifically for jobs that they've applied to. So they will pick up their own keywords. Then we can go down and we pick up any additional information. So you have to have, whether it's full-time or part-time, you have to have a business unit. We've got these already. That's nice. If you want a notification email, you can choose one. If you do, I would recommend get notifications only for those who meet basic qualifications. Then we do need to choose exempt or none, and this is going to be exempt, right? And I don't have questions. It doesn't appear, so I'm going to pass up on those. I wanted to pay attention to where it was located. Sanford, NC. Okay, so I need to add it. I do need to add it. There it is. Add the title. I'm going to save it, and it fills it in. So now I can proceed to my job advertising. All right, so at this point, I've added the listing, and you generally won't have to do anything else from here. But we don't want this one to actually go live yet. So I can look at my job ad just to make sure everything, and it didn't. So I need to actually copy in my career site ad description. And because I did that, I'm going to need a zip code out here. Does anyone happen to know what the zip code is for that job listing?
No, I don't think so. Sanford, let me see.
Well, it's no bull services, so I can look them up. I'll just pop open a window.
It's, oh, yeah. Noble oil.
So you get there first, right?
I'm trying.
230. I got it.
Okay. 27330. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you make any changes on this page, then you have to put in the zip code. It's a good idea to have it anyway, but you have to put it if you make any changes on this page. By the way, if you're pulling up a template that you've used before and you make any changes to the career site ad description or title, then when you come over here, make sure you copy the updates into here. So we've got it, so now we can save this. Now, you'll only need to go to this tab if you're going to be pushing it out to Career Builder or Monster. Only reasons of any significance, because they have a couple of required fields. Otherwise, we can go to Job Feeds. Indeed is off because of the selection we made on the other page, and it's also grayed out because we make the selection on the other page. That's when we chose current instead of future. The rest of these, however, default to on. since we're not live yet, I'm going to select none, and then I'm going to close that up. Whoops, I didn't want to close out of there. Shoot. Let me do this. Refresh my page. This will also be handy to show you, should you make that mistake that looked like a mistake, was really just intended to show you how to do this, you can go to directly to the job board push page. Here's where we started. So if you do want to share it with others on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatever account you're logged into, you can open it up directly from here. And you can also create an email that has a link directly to the job listing. We were on this page earlier, the job feeds, the one last page. Should you wish to set up the posting group service, this allows you to have the posting group push out your job listings to sites such as state workforce sites. And I think you guys may have your own group who does something like this. So if you're happy, or actually you guys are the group. If you want to do this yourself, then great. But if you find that it's really worthwhile with your number of listings to have someone else do this for you, you can make available your state workforce job board, colleges, universities, sites for veterans, for people with disabilities, etc. And then all you do is select them, and those are all free sites that I was talking about there. You can also set up paid sites, but all your free sites, you can select up to 5 of them for a job listing, move them over here, click on Save, and the posting group does the rest of the work for you. There is an additional cost to do that, an additional $30 per month. But if it's worthwhile and you want it, just let me know, and then I can show you how we can set up these. So that's it on that. I mentioned reports that I would touch on these, and since we're now 20 minutes after, we should be able to finish up this reporting and then setting up the users and be wrapped up by 12:30 Central, 1:30 your time. So standard reports. So this is where we are. The most commonly used reports are, well, this is the, if you want to go directly into where you can do search by miles from zip code and things like that, this is just kind of your advanced search, going straight to it. Then, all right, and actually similar on the keyword. Sources by status group is the cleanest of the source reports to show you where your applicants are coming from. This is for the entire site. You have something similar for each job listing. When you go to the applicants by job, you can actually go in and click to look at those. Or actually, is that right? Or is it under job listings? Actually, it's under job listings. So when you go in here, you can actually look at the source of applicants for just this one job listing. All right. Also useful if you've got someone who's particularly interested in how long it takes to fill the job listing. This is the time between the start date of the job listing and when you mark the first person is hired. If you're looking at how quick you are on individual applicants, this is the time for everyone marked as hired from when they applied to when they were marked as hired. And we can also turn on the ability for you to edit the status date. So if you mark someone as hired on Monday, but they were actually hired on Friday, you can give them credit for being hired on Friday. You have some other analytics that may be useful for you. You've got some jobs report, jobs overview report. You can look at particular applicants. If you are pushing out job listings, you can see what job listings or what listings were pushed out to what sites when. And if you do need your applicant log, then you can generate that. So this is the most, if I've got even a single client that's not using this format, there may just be 1 or 2 at the most. But otherwise, this applicant log is a little bit cleaner than what we have in iApplicants, so a useful one. And I mentioned user level activity. So if you're wondering, is one of our users that we've set up even looking at applications or just what all are they doing, then the stuff that we track, you can see underneath this. You choose the user and you can see what they've been doing. I mentioned before these, so I'm going to pop on over to settings. So underneath the gear icon, very first option is settings. If you do set up any managers who are not administrators, they won't see these first two options. You'll probably never need to add anything on career sites. Probably doesn't make a lot of sense to need to do that. Job settings is a pretty busy area because you may have noticed that we had a job board classification. It can be used actually for anything. So if you want to classify your jobs, this one is already in a number of reports, this field. So if instead of customer service and finance, you want to put security clearance or recruiter who is assigned to this, you could set up your recruiter names here as job board classifications, and therefore assign each of your job listings to a particular recruiter and be able to see it with the job listing and in reporting. Here are these employment types. So if you need to add anything additional, like if you do any medical and you want to add PRN or intern or anything like that, you can add these. Just when you add, you're going to be selecting, is it job board classification, employment type, or job location. So let's say that in Raleigh, ultimately you do decide that, you know what, we need to have 2 Raleighs and I want to make this one a street level address, then you can go in and edit it and refine it to what you want it to be. And of course you can archive and unarchive from here. Here are your business units we were talking about earlier. Right now they're all set up as companies. You can call it whatever you want, but they're all basically business units. And even if you want to get more specific, if Advanced Energy, you want to set up 2 different divisions of it, you can do that, which again, that would relate to the level of access most particularly, but you can use it for whatever purpose you want. Here are the sources we've got in here currently. These are the ones that are going to generate by far the most applicants. Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, your site potentially, and some of these others you're going to get some, but if you're paying for a site or you particularly want to track something, then you may want to add it. These, for most of these, they're going to fill in automatically when they come from those sites. Here are all the statuses you have set up. And to show you what I was describing earlier, let's say that that you do have someone who's not an administrator and you don't want them to ever be able to select hired, uncheck them. That's all you have to do. And then you can save it. So now only administrators can select hired as a status. So you could do that for any of these. I would recommend if you make a status only available to admins, put it at the end of the list because they can see, other users can see all of the statuses. They just are going to be grayed out for those they can't choose. So you might as well have the first ones bold where they can see them and use them, and the last ones where they can only see them but not use them. Here are your templates. So if you wanted to set up new email/text templates, you can do so from here. This one, make sure you do not archive it, or I mean you can edit it, but don't archive it because this is what goes out automatically to your applicants. Another one that goes out automatically regularly is the incomplete app reminder. The way we have your site set up, because we're asking all applicants to return and complete applications, they start to give you the additional information. They're going to get this. Okay, users. Pretty simple. For administrators, first tab, here's me, here's Jill. If you want to add a new administrator, if anyone wants to stick their hand up right now, I can add them. It's the required fields. So we need to set up a username, which can be anything that is unique in the system. So if I were to put just Jill and hope that that works, actually, wouldn't you know that one works. If I chose Richard, for instance, that's unbelievable. Richard's available. How about Bob? Bob is not available. So it's already being used by somebody out there in the applicant pool world, so I would have to make it more unique. The password needs all of these requirements. It has to be at least 8 characters, must include a number, must include a special character. So be it an @ sign, a dot, whatever, exclamation. So need first name, last name, country, email, clearly, and it has to actually be an email format. It'll catch it if you don't have everything you need in there. Then you do need time zone. Most often, I guess, for you guys, it's going to be Eastern. And then we're administrators here, so we don't deal with business units, we deal with career sites. Right now you just have the one, so, oops, so we're going to move over that. Is there anybody that needs to be set up right now so you can pop in there?
At this point, you can just leave me as the administrator, and then we'll figure the administrative piece out.
Okay, fair enough.
So, just to make it simple, I think that's how we had it before. But I may add a few more people, or I may make everybody else. We'll have to just make a decision on that.
Okay. Yeah, your administrators, though, I would want to have each one of them set up definitely. So all your recruiters, it sounds like you're wanting them to have full access, so they all need to be set up as administrators.
Right, right. There are some people that just recruit a little bit, so I need to figure out who are going to be those administrators that are most often in here. But if people want to be able to add their own companies, then they would have to be an administrator to do that, correct? Like
that
to
is
add
correct.
in.
If they want it, yeah, if they want to be able to add a business unit, then they need to be an administrator. But if you're okay having someone else add that level of information and you only want them to just have access to that one small business unit, then you could always set them up as a posting manager for that matter.
Yeah, we don't have to be that it's not that, restrictive, really. We all use it the same, basically.
All right, awesome. Okay.
So when I send you the list of everybody, we can make them all administrators.
Okay, fair enough. Will do.
Okay. And Richard, maybe I know everybody else has to get off, but if you and I can stay on for a couple minutes.
Sure.
And just talk about next steps, and everybody else I will communicate, whoever's left on the call. I think most people may have had to leave.
Not too many more left. Cheryl, Karen, and Lauren, it looks like.
Yeah, so Karen and Lauren, I will communicate, and Cheryl, I'll communicate with you once I know next steps. Okay?
I'm going to pause the recording.